My parents were going to end my life or my brother's, and I had to pick. When I was 11 years old, my parents explained that my 6-year-old brother Isaac had bones like glass, and from now on, every beating meant for him would land on me instead. Isaac was diagnosed with osteogenesis imperfecta after my parents decided he was old enough to hit, and he crumpled after the first slap. The doctor said even a firm hug could snap his ribs, that he'd need a wheelchair soon, that we'd have to reshape our entire lives around his fragility. My parents heard this and saw not a child who needed protection, but a weapon they could use. That night, Dad grabbed Isaac roughly by the shoulder, and I watched my little brother's face contort in pain. See how easy it would be? Dad said to me. One squeeze and he shatters. So here's how this works. You take whatever we need to give, or we take it out on him. They demonstrated their seriousness immediately. When Mom found dishes in the sink, she held Isaac's wrist and started to squeeze until I begged her to hit me instead. She did, backhanding me so hard I saw stars, then released Isaac, who crawled into my lap sobbing. Your sister loves you so much, Mom cooed to him. She'll always keep you safe. Isaac looked up at me with trusting eyes, not understanding that our parents had just turned me into his human shield. From that day on, every infraction, every bad mood, every drunken rage was channeled through my body to spare his. Isaac never knew the real reason I limped or why I flinched when Dad came home. I told him I was clumsy, that I played too rough at school. He'd kiss my bruises with his tiny lips and promised to share his dessert to make me feel better. At night, he'd wheel himself into my room and we'd build blanket forts where nothing could hurt us. When I'm bigger, I'll protect you, he'd whisper, not knowing he was the only reason I survived each day. His love was pure in a house full of calculated cruelty. I wrote a note to my teacher explaining everything, begging for help, but when my teacher pulled me aside to discuss it, I saw Dad's car in the parking lot. He'd been watching. That night, he held Isaac on his lap while Mom worked me over, Isaac crying as he watched, not understanding why I was being punished. Next time you try to involve outsiders, Dad said, bouncing Isaac just hard enough to make him whimper. We won't be so careful with him. The price of asking for help was Isaac's safety. I started documenting everything in hidden places, taking photos of bruises, recording audio when I could. I thought if I gathered enough evidence, child services would act so fast my parents wouldn't have time to hurt Isaac. But they must have found one of my hiding spots because one morning Isaac's arm was in a cast. He fell, Mom said sweetly. You weren't watching him carefully enough. Isaac backed up her story, trained already at 7 years old to lie. The cast was a warning. They could break him anytime and blame me. I couldn't leave without him, so I taught him a game where we'd practice sneaking out at night, getting to the bus stop, memorizing the route to the hospital. I told him it was practice for if he ever needed help. What I didn't tell him was that I'd been saving money, that I'd found a shelter that would take us both. The night we tried, Isaac's wheelchair got stuck in the doorframe. The noise woke Dad. He didn't punish me. Instead, he removed Isaac's wheelchair ramp, forcing my brother to crawl or be carried everywhere. Since you two like sneaking around so much, he said. I made one last desperate attempt. I called 911 from school, reporting medical neglect, saying they were denying Isaac his bone density medication. The paramedics took Isaac for evaluation. I really thought I'd found the solution. Isaac was safe in medical custody and they couldn't get to him. And now I could tell the truth of what was going on in our house without risking his life. But then my parents arrived at the hospital with documentation of my behavioral problems. Social services launched an investigation into me, not them. The investigation closed with nothing found, and we were all sent home from the hospital. That's where Dad picked up Isaac and held him over the stairs. Brittle bones and staircases don't mix, do they? He asked me. Isaac was screaming, sobbing. So here's what happens now, Dad said. You're going to write a goodbye note tonight, explaining how guilty you feel for hurting your brother, for making up stories about your loving parents. Then you're going to down a bottle of pills, and we'll all grieve together as a family. Isaac sobbed as Dad squeezed harder. Or we can see if Isaac survives a fall down the stairs. Your choice. Full story on the channel below.